Welcome to another deep dive. We've got something pretty interesting to dig into today. Excerpts from Superfoods, Silkworms, and Spandex Science and Pseudoscience in Everyday Life.
By Dr. Joe Schwarcz.
Exactly. I've got to say, I'm really enjoying this one. It's not your typical science textbook.
No, it's not.
It's more like a collection of really cool stories about, just the science behind those everyday things that we kind of take for granted.
And what's great is that Dr. Schwarcz doesn't shy away from those, like breathing.
Breathing, yeah, we all do it.
We all do it.
But
yeah.
how often do you actually think about what's going on?
Right, like what's actually happening in our bodies.
Right.
And he goes way back, to the 1700s to talk about Antoine Lavoisier, who basically proved that breathing is like this slow, controlled burning process happening inside of us.
Yeah.
And he did it using a guinea pig.
Okay, now that's an experiment I need to hear more about.
So basically, Lavoisier, he put a guinea pig in a chamber, and he was measuring how much ice melted as the guinea pig was breathing. And then he compared it to a burning candle and found that both processes use up oxygen.
Oh, wow.
And release carbon dioxide in similar amounts.
It's amazing
Yeah.
that someone figured that out.
Yeah, like using a guinea pig.
That's awesome.
I know. It makes you wonder,
What other little scientific processes are happening?
yeah, what else is going on?
Right under our noses.
Right. And speaking of things happening inside our bodies,
Yeah.
Dr. Schwarcz also dives into the science behind weight loss and exercise.
Okay, and this is something that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in because, you just assume if you're exercising more,
You're going to lose weight.
you're going to lose more weight.
Right.
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 That's the equation.
Yeah, more exercise equals more weight loss.
Exactly.
But he talks about how there's this researcher, Herman Ponzer, who's done some fascinating research
Mm-hmm.
on how our bodies are actually really good at adapting to different activity levels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we think that we have a lot more control over the number of calories we burn than we actually do.
So our bodies just naturally want to stay?
Kind of in this,
Sure.
yeah, in this zone.
Okay.
And so this research suggests that while exercise is still crucial
Right.
for overall health,
Yeah.
we might have overestimated its role in weight loss.
So you're telling me all those extra trips to the gym might not be doing what I think they are?
It's not as straightforward as we think.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because
Good.
it's still important for a lot of reasons.
Tons of other reasons.
Yeah. But in terms of weight loss, it really comes down to calories in versus calories out.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Yeah,
Because you just assume that equation's the most important one.
right. But it's a lot more complex than that,
Yeah.
which is why I think a lot of people find that they struggle with weight loss.
Right. It's not as easy as just moving more.
Exactly. And so I think that's what makes this book so interesting, is that it kind of challenges our assumptions about some of these things.
Absolutely. And speaking of energy,
Yeah.
how about the energy stored in a bouncing rubber ball?
Oh, yeah.
Another one of those everyday objects with a surprising amount of science behind it, right?
It really is. And every bounce of a rubber ball is basically a mini physics lesson.
Okay, I like it.
So when the ball hits the ground,
Right.
kinetic energy
Right.
gets converted into potential energy
Okay.
as the ball deforms. And then as it springs back to its original shape,
Okay.
that potential energy is converted back into kinetic energy,
Gotcha.
which propels it upwards. And the type of rubber that's used actually plays a huge role in how much energy is stored and released.
So that's why some bouncy balls are bouncier?
Exactly. Some are bouncier than others.
Interesting.
And this principle of energy transformation
Yeah.
isn't just limited to bouncy balls.
right.
It's everywhere.
Where else?
Think about trampolines, springs, even the way our own tendons store energy when we walk and run.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all connected.
I love that.
Yeah.
That Dr. Schwartz helps us see these connections that you wouldn't think of.
Right. The extraordinary and the ordinary.
Exactly. And he does it with some pretty interesting stories.
Oh yeah, wait till you hear about this bee alarm pheromone and its unlikely connection to bananas.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
I'm not.
Bee stingers smell like bananas. What is happening?
I know it sounds crazy, right? But it's a perfect example of how these weird observations can lead to these big breakthroughs in science.
Okay, so tell me more.
So let's hear it.
Okay, so you were saying something about bees and bananas and a scientific discovery. That sounds like the start of a very strange joke.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a great example of how in science, these totally random observations can actually lead to like these big breakthroughs.
Okay.
So in this case, scientists were studying bee behavior, and they noticed that when a bee stings something, it obviously leaves behind the stinger,
Right.
but it also leaves behind this scent.
Okay.
And that scent is very similar to the smell of bananas.
Wait, so bee stingers smell like bananas?
Gaida? Yeah.
How do they even figure that out? Who's smelling bee stingers?
I know, right? It's so weird.
That's so strange.
But it turns out that this connection was actually what led to the discovery of the bee alarm pheromone.
Oh, okay.
So by analyzing the stinger, they pinpointed the exact chemical compound that was causing that banana smell.
So they found the banana culprit,
Right.
but how do they know it was an alarm? What if bees just like
Bananas.
love the smell of bananas?
Right.
And they're like, hey, let's go sting that thing over there.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the beauty of the scientific method, is that they tested it.
Oh, okay.
So they took that isolated compound and they put it on like cotton balls and they put them near beehives.
Okay.
And sure enough, the bees went on high alert,
confirming
that that compound isomyl acetate was the secret ingredient in their alarm system.
That's so cool.
I know, it's amazing what they can figure out.
It makes you wonder, like, what other weird connections are out there
Right.
that we just don't even realize.
Like, what else are we missing out on?
Right?
Just because we haven't made that connection yet.
Exactly.
There, speaking of unexpected connections,
Yeah.
Dr. Schwarcz also talks about the history of margarine in the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I have a feeling there's more to that story than meets the eye.
Okay, now you've got me interested. Tell me more.
So margarine was actually invented as a solution to a butter shortage in the 1800s.
What?
Yeah. So Emperor Napoleon III of France
Okay.
was worried about dwindling butter supplies.
Interesting.
And he offered a prize to anyone who could come up with a tasty and convincing butter substitute.
I like his style.
All right.
What a challenge.
But
What did they come up with?
So this French chemist named Hippolyte Mesmerier, he took home the prize with his invention, which was this blend of beef fat,
Okay.
milk, and a few other surprising ingredients, all churned together to resemble butter.
So margarine started as like a solution to a shortage.
Exactly, a butter backup plan
Okay, so what happened? How did it go from like backup plan to like,
to what we know today.
yeah?
Well, it faced a lot of resistance from the dairy industry,
Oh, yeah.
understandably so.
Right, because they're like, hey,
They're like, hey,
this is
that's
our thing.
yeah, that's our turf.
Yeah.
So, there were bans on margarine,
No.
special taxes on it, even regulations about what color it could be,
Wow.
all because it was seen as this threat to the traditional butter market.
Wow. It's like a turf war
It really was
over butter.
over butter.
Who knew?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's something we still see today, right?
I mean,
Well, think about the debates we have over genetically modified foods
oh, right.
or the environmental impact of like certain farming practices.
Yeah, it's this constant push and pull between like advancement and acceptance.
Right. Because science is always
Moving forward.
moving forward. Yeah. And we're like, wait, hold on.
Exactly.
We're not ready for this.
We need time to adjust.
Right.
So it's interesting how some of these themes kind of repeat themselves throughout history.
Yeah. It's like we haven't really changed that much.
It seems like it, right?
Wow.
But, on the topic of food and science,
Yeah.
Dr. Schwarcz also spends some time debunking myths surrounding superfoods.
Okay. So he doesn't buy into all the hype.
Not really. And he uses this great example of Barbara Cartland.
Who's Barbara Cartland?
She was this really famous romance novelist,
Okay.
but she was really into promoting this yeast-based product called BioStraff.
Wait, romance novels and yeast products.
I know.
What's the connection?
It seems totally random, but she was like super into it, pushing all these supposed health benefits, even though there wasn't a lot of evidence to support her claims.
So it's like another example of when marketing and science collide.
Exactly, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Which is why he's reminding us to be cautious.
Yeah.
Especially when something sounds too good to be true.
Right. Like if it sounds too good to be true,
It probably is.
it probably is.
Right, and there's a lot more to unpack about superfoods and the science behind those claims.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit more. It's tough because those claims are everywhere. Like, how do you even know what to believe these days?
You really have to be careful about what you're reading and where you're getting your information from,
Yeah,
because marketing is a powerful thing,
it really is.
and they know how to make things sound appealing,
Absolutely.
even if the science isn't quite there.
Right.
But speaking of science,
Yeah.
Dr. Schwarcz poses a really interesting question toward the end of the book.
Okay.
He asks, could the secret to longer lifespans be hidden in the habits of bats.
Bats. Okay, now that's not a connection I would have made.
Right, like bats and long life. It seems strange, but when you think about it, bats live a surprisingly long time for their size.
Do they?
Yeah, like some species can live for decades.
Wow, I had no idea.
Right. And scientists are really interested in this. Like, how do they do that? What's their secret? So they're studying bats, trying to understand how they manage to stay so healthy and resilient for so long.
Wow.
Because obviously we age,
Yeah.
and bats age too.
Right.
But they seem to do it a lot slower than we do.
So if we could figure out...
So the thought is, if we can unlock those secrets of bat biology, maybe it could give us clues to extending human lifespans.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that something as like small and, I don't know, I think of bats as kind of ordinary.
Right.
But they could hold the key to this big question of aging.
It really speaks to like the power of scientific curiosity
Yeah.
and just like never underestimating the natural world.
Never underestimating the natural world. Yeah, because it's full of surprises.
It really is.
Like this whole book
They
has
went-
just been full of surprises.
And that's what I think makes Superfoods, Silkworms, and Spandex so interesting,
Yeah.
is that Dr. Schwarcz just reminds us that science is everywhere.
Yeah,
Like it's in the food we eat,
right.
the products we use, the
Yeah.
creatures we share the planet with.
It's all connected.
It really is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this deep dive has definitely like opened my eyes to some of the unexpected wonders of science.
Me too.
I'm gonna be looking at everything a little differently now.
Right. You start to see those connections everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And you start to appreciate just how much we don't know.
It makes you want to learn more.
Exactly.
Well, if you're looking for an engaging read that will definitely make you think about things a little differently, I highly recommend checking out Superfoods, Silkworms, and Spandex by Dr. Joe Schwarcz. You won't be disappointed.
It's a great read.
It really is.
Well-
Until next time, stay curious.
Keep exploring.
It's not